Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak here on Arise News. It's now time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. And let's bring in Arise analyst, our own capable Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Dr. Constance. How are you today?
Bimbai, you've started again this morning.
Yes, so
our own capable Bimbai.
Yes.
Good morning.
Dr. Capable.
Very colorful today, bright.
Absolutely. To
yellow.
start the
It's
weekend,
Friday.
you know, exactly.
No, to start the weekend, yes,
Yeah,
yes. And
the weekend
even
rendezvous
Wenga.
starts here.
Yeah, Wenga, you look very bright.
Oh, thank you.
Yolanda as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Everybody.
And you too.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're looking forward to that weekend. Okay, let's do our job quickly and then we're out. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with This Day newspaper. In This Day today, it leads with a vital piece on the economy. CBN hits 4-year high external reserves of $41.05 billion, target $100 billion. This rise is the highest seen since December 2021. This is an important news amid the country's high debt obligations and revenue shortfall. When we look at this story in leadership, it tells us that analysts forecast stronger Naira as external reserves hit, $41 billion. This is generally seen as a positive development in light of the fact that high external reserves indicate a strong and economic position. Foreign reserves, by the way, represent the stock of foreign currencies, gold, and other reserve assets held by the central bank. So while it is good in the sense that it boosts investor confidence, but just looking at the size of Nigeria and the economy, we should be doing much more. You want to do much better, and you want an upward review, and that's why when we go back to that This Day report, it indicates that the government is targeting $100 billion. Vimbai, your thought on this story?
Wow. Well, several things come to mind. I think, first of all, we need to acknowledge that this is a positive milestone. It's a step in the right direction. But beneath the surface, what is usually more important when we're looking at economic indices are the net reserves as opposed to the gross reserves. Because the gross reserves are, sort of a lump sum number that also includes liabilities and so forth. But the net reserves are the usable, the deployable part of your reserves. Now, the governor of the CBN, Olayemi Cardoso, has done fantastically well because he met the net reserves at $3.99 billion. And as of the last reporting in April, they were sitting at $23.1 billion. So that's a big move. This particular report on the gross reserves hasn't given us an indication of net reserves. However, what does this mean for us? What this means for us is that if we're able to stabilize on gross reserves and net reserves, some of the inflationary pressures that we feel might actually be impacted and might stabilize, because we know a lot of the inflation is tied to exchange rate volatility. We're still an import dependent market. However, I think we're seeing some successes in non-oil exports, which is, I think, a positive development. However, I think in totality, for me, looking at the gross reserves as a number, celebrating it in isolation, we need to be careful of that, because the net reserves indicate the health and the stability of the economy. And if we're using that 23 point something billion figure in comparison to 41 billion, that's only about 56%, I think, in comparison, which is way below what is economically recommended for a stable economy, which is 75% and above. Moving in the right direction, but not yet Uhuru.
Definitely a lot of work to be done there for a country the size of this market. Okay, we'll have another story in This Day newspaper, and this time we're going to politics, looking at the troubled People's Democratic Party. Makinde Southern PDP leaders have taken far-reaching decision on state of the party. Wike's group dismisses meeting as illegal. And if we go to the New Telegraph, the same story goes with this a different headline. 2027, Southern PDP has taken a stand on zoning. PDP says its decision on zoning will be made known in the days ahead. While Sheyi Makinde has publicly stated that this meeting by leaders in the South would lead to broader dialogue, other party members have already disowned that meeting, in which he seems to be speaking on behalf of the southern wing of the party. Chief among the antagonists here is the Minister of the FCT, Mr. Nyesom Wiki, which is not shocking at all. I would like to bring you in here, Gwenga. What does this mean for the PDP and party politics in general?
Whichever way you look at it, it does not send a good signal to the party, especially as we move closer to 2027 politics election. This is a party that has boasted that it would maintain political dominance for 6 decades, and now things seem to be falling apart. How are things falling apart for the PDP? It's because when you look at what the PDP is built on, it's a party that was built on national consensus. So everyone, it's a party that is built on inclusivity, and that's the strength of its resilience, its political resilience as a party. But now, with the fraction and the cracks widening by the day, I think that it's important that any consultation or whatever thing it's labeled should be very, very inclusive rather than being exclusive. Now, this is sending suspicion from different camps, especially the camp of Wike, that you know that he has been, because when you look at the political reality of the party, it's not enough to wax lyrics or rhetorics about where the party is going. The political reality, politics needs a lot of money. So you cannot come out by the day and run a Wike down that has been funding the party for some years now. A lot of them, they get their political sponsorship from some of these people. So we must come down to the defining realities that drives the political survival of many of these gladiators. So I think ahead of the next week, the coming Monday next meeting, I think all stakeholders of the party should come together and find a way to move the party forward. And they should come up with sincere, because the underlying issue is the issue of zoning. Okay. That's been the elephant in the room. Let's be sincere to ourselves. And this group now, the Makinde-led group, which also has the endorsement of the PDP Board of Trustees, Adolphus Wabara, has given a subtle endorsement for the coming together of this group as against the interests of the other factions that feels marginalized. So right. I think the need for them is to come together, because don't forget that some other strong members have defected from this party, and it's really, really on a critical state right now.
I mean, in that discussion, you raised the point of party reform in terms of funding, because when you talked about one person funding the party heavily over the years, and so thinks that he has the right, believes he has the right to do whatever he wishes, that's a sore point that, we'll have to deal with in Nigeria. But let's take a final story from this day newspaper. Above the mast, Mba unveils reconstructed hotel presidential. Enugu Estos Okpara's vision, says abandoned rotten 62-year-old glorious edifice was affront to our pride. The hotel was constructed by former Premier of the Old Eastern Region, Dr. Michael Okpara. This story is so historic and substantial because it sheds light on the culture of abandoning public institutions. We have so many that are littered across the country that can be put to good use. It just takes men and women of vision to make impact. The Enugu State government here is really making efforts to stand out among peers. Yolanda, do you have any comment on this, especially when it comes to, public institutions and making sure that they are maintained? Maintenance culture, actually.
Thank you, Dr. Constance. I like this story because it sheds a very positive light on the tourism development in that region. I think the reconstruction of this hotel is good and strategic because it could also just boost people coming to Enugu for, they can prolong their stays because now there's, a lot better places to stay. And I think this potentially leads as well to an increased revenue and job creation for people of that state. And just as you rightly stated, stated, the cultural heritage, preserving that is very important. I think all the states should look into preserving their culture with the buildings and the monuments that are held dear by the people of that state.
Yeah, very good point on tourism, because actually the target for the state is to drive tourism. You know, they've done a lot of work in that regard.
It looks very beautiful on the pictures on the screen.
Yes.
It looks very nice and very well built. The parking lot, the greenery, it looks great. So well done, a great job.
Fly Enugu Air and then check into the hotel.
And then the buses, you know, the CNG buses that were just unveiled, and the bus stops and all of that. So, you know, everything is coming together. It has a vision and is really working towards it. Okay, yeah, the Guardian newspaper, what started as a dispute over jurisdictional responsibility to confer titles and traditional honors is taking another dimension. Alafin versus Oni, old warpath for new entrants, screams this headline. In other words, this is a repeat of ancient rivalry and wars that is now seeing new gladiators. The Alafin of Oyo, Oba Akim Owade, claims the Oni of Ife, Oba Adeyeye Enito Ogunwusi, is usurping his authority on conferment of titles. Many see this open confrontation as unsavory. Benga, well, again, you're an expert in this area because you come from there. What's your assessment of how this very public acrimony impacts the throne, the palaces, the people, and the culture?
I would say this is rather unfortunate, especially as we have two traditional institutions that have held a legendary influence in Yoruba history. The Ooni of Ife, who represents the spiritual, who is also the custodian of the spiritual heritage of the Yoruba people, and the Alafin of Oyo, whose pedigree as a political leader that have also established a strong and vibrant institution over centuries. They are coming to daggers drawn now, and this is rather unfortunate and very, very needless, because they are meant to complement each other.
Yes.
When you also look at it, let me just quickly use the words of Alexander Graham Bell that says that the successful people at the end of the day are those men whose success show accretion, which means that it is your work of humanity, it is your work of development that will count at the end of the day, not this power aggrandizement that people are now showing now. There is a yawning gap of development. There's a need for the traditional institution to complement the current subnational and even at the national level in terms of fast-tracking development. We should think about humanity, and just like Professor Joy Ezolu said, the UN rapporteur, he said, it's time we take our humanity serious. When you look at the historical issue, there is a lesson to be learned in the historical link. Let me just cite the Ijayi War of 1865. Where, let me move you to the Yoruba War, where there was a lot of interference by the British colonial master. And at the end of the day, it led to the annexation of most of the communities in Yoruba land. So it is time for the Yoruba leaders to come together and not betray one another for the interest of a meddlesome interloper that will take advantage of the political situation of the day. So the reality points that both of them and the elders of the Yoruba land need to come together to find the path of unity for the Yoruba people.
Well said, Benga. Thank you so much for going into history to shed some light on that very important story. We'll move on to Daily Trust. That bloody attack on the mosque in Katsina State leads here. Search continues as over 50 bodies recovered. Let's pair that with another story that's actually related in the Punch. CDS 2027 polls behind surge in killings. A steady flow of foreign cash empowering terrorists, according to Musa. Then Nigeria facing growing security risk from Sahel conflicts, defense chief. So Daily Trust reporters visited the communities where that attack occurred in Katsina State, and the finding is that these places are completely deserted. People are fleeing for their lives. This happened in Gidan Mantau in Malumfashi local government area. Bandits laid siege there, it's being reported, and they are calling on government for help. And as for the Punch, the Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa is quoted as saying rising insecurity compared to last year cannot be delaying from political activities ahead of the polls. He claims some politicians are deliberately fueling violence to discredit the government. He says where there's no peace, the government is seen to be failing. First of all, our hearts go out to people in Katsina State for that massacre. Is just heart-wrenching. And for the Chief of Defense Staff comment, we've heard this before, of the political angle to this insecurity. What goes round does come round, though. During Jonathan's government, it was reported severally that politicians were sponsoring terrorism to make the country ungovernable. In fact, they actually said that, well, now we seem to be back there, Vimbai.
You know, this is devastating and harrowing. Let's begin with the experiences as shared by those residents of this community who, as documented by Daily Trust, are actually having to go out and look for their own relatives. They said they're combing through the bush and the shrub because there isn't a support team that has come in to help them search for their missing relatives. So that is devastating in itself. Is that where is our disaster response? You know, where is our response, emergency response to these types of situations? You know, what does it take for us to have a consistent approach towards addressing these humanitarian crises that that develop when this type of attack happens? So that's one thing to note. Now, on the comments from the Chief of Defense Staff, I mean, he said a lot. I'm glad you highlighted what looks like history repeating itself with the fact that we hear this narrative about politicians are the ones fueling this. But there are two things for me that stand out. Number one, why is it that it's always brought to the media, but we don't see any politicians being held to book? If there is concrete evidence that suggests that this involvement, this conspiracy exists, why is it that this narrative pops up regularly, but no action is taken? That's number one. Number two, it seems that the trend is that when there is a southern president, we start to see more of this narrative propping up. So one now wants to ask, what is really going on and what is the core around this? And why is it that we can't create a harmonious space for southern presidents when they're in office? Now, lastly, the Chief of Defense Staff echoed some of the statements that we've shared here, which is around the judicial process. He said he feels that the judiciary is frustrating their efforts to be able to prosecute and arrest terrorists. He said, and bandits as well. He said in some instances, you know, they get off with light sentences, or the process is not really what they feel it should be. So he's advocating for special courts. Well, I don't know, we can barely afford the courts we have now, but that's a proposition. Then he's also speaking about the fallout from Libya, the external forces. And he also highlighted the fact that now with the crisis in Sudan, we have more pressure. So our insecurity challenges are being fueled politically, internally, and with regional pressures from the Sahel as well. Okay. On a lighter note, as I round up, he said that he encourages Nigerians to all learn self-defense tactics. He said he thinks it's a critical part of livelihood. I don't know how people will receive that because it seems it would encourage a degree of self-help, and we're not advocating for that. But he says that he thinks in NYSC, Nigerians should learn self-defense combat.
Well, General Theophilus Danjuma had already told us many years ago, a couple of years now, that everyone should learn to defend themselves within the context of what is happening. Quickly, let's move on to Daily Sun. Ram faction's public outcry begins through remuneration packages for office holders. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission says it's constitutionally empowered to set these pay structures, and that preliminary work has begun to align salaries with prevailing economic realities. Their constitutional power is not what's in question here, though, is it? I mean, Mr. Peter Obi, ADC, Coalition of United Political Parties, have all insinuated that this is not a priority. It has to be a very quick comment from anyone here, very quick, before we move to the international.
I think I will jump into this.
Okay, yes, please jump in.
And I think yesterday I made a comment which was grossly misunderstood when I called for the review and cited the powers, the statutory powers of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission that has the mandate to review. When I said reviewing, it means that they should correct the anomalies, not necessarily upward scale or just an arbitrary upward scale. Right. But I still maintain that a situation where the Director of Petroleum Resources and some other strategic agencies earn more than the president is an aberration. But
Right.
now, beyond this is the perks that these political office holders.
Absolutely.
So we must incentivize this process of enriching themselves or trying or towing a high cost of governance trend. We must see how we can make the salaries, and as a matter of fact, the National Wages and Salary Commissions too should wake up to their responsibility to see how we can earn a living wage. We should de-emphasize that sense of national minimum wage. At least we'll recall recently that a UN agency has said that the national minimum wage has been rendered ineffective because of the devaluation of the currency.
Okay.
So all these realities need to be reviewed in line with prevailing realities. So that was what I meant yesterday. That
right.
we need to correct all these irregularities and the anomalies in the salary structures from both the political office holders and the public servants.
Well taken. International headlines this morning. We'll just go through all of them and then have the comment together. Daily Graphic, Shatta Wale released the revision of his bail was due to youth support. Wale is a dance hall artist. He was arrested at the request of the U.S. earlier this month on allegations that he bought a Lamborghini using proceeds of criminal enterprise. Investigations are ongoing as we speak. Citizen newspaper, a big question in the Citizen, why are kids so angry? This question arises from the rampant cases of bullying and pupil violence. A shocking 548 cases being approved across schools in South Africa. It's spiraling out of control, it says. Financial Times, tents in flames, Palestinians flee as Netanyahu prepares to approve fresh Gaza City offensive. And finally, we have The Guardian. That story still features the 83% of Gaza war dead as civilians, Israeli data suggests. And at the bottom left, Moscow deals blow to Ukraine peace deals. Yolanda, we have less than how many seconds? You know, if you want to comment.
Yes, I just wanted to quickly come in on the South African story on why kids are so angry. It is an open secret that South Africa has a very, very high crime rate. And so to now ask why are our kids so angry is almost confusing. Where do you think they come from? Which homes do you think they come from? You know, the people who are also committing all these crimes, they have children, they have families. Our children are watching what happens. Our children are seeing what's happening in society. You know, there was also a report that was taken months ago about how high domestic violence is and how, you know, there's stuff like female...
even sexual abuses against women, sexual violence.
And so these children are coming from homes where they see these things. They are seeing them on the news. They are hearing of them in school. People are talking about them. So to ask such a question, we're just passing on what our generation is doing onto the next.
We have to go, unfortunately.
Apologies for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. That's all we can take today.
That's okay.
Dr. Constance, thank you so much. You give us a chance to express ourselves. Well, that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Vimbai Mutinide Ekweon.
And I'm Benga Ashiru saying, do have a pleasant weekend. Give yourself a treat.
And I'm Yolanda. Please do keep it here on Arise News.